Conversations, and private moments portrayed here are entirely imagined for storytelling purposes. It began on a quiet evening inside the royal residence. The palace corridors were unusually silent. Staff members moved carefully, sensing that something important was unfolding behind closed doors. King Felipe stood alone in his study, looking out the window toward the gardens. His expression carried the weight of years spent balancing family and monarchy. On his desk rested a folder containing plans for Princess Leonor's upcoming schedule. Every appearance had been arranged. Every meeting carefully planned. Every step designed to strengthen the future of the monarchy. Then came the gentle knock. "Come in." Princess Leonor entered, dressed simply after returning from official duties. She looked calm, but her eyes revealed determination. Her father smiled warmly. "Sit down," he said. She did. For a few moments, neither spoke. Finally, King Felipe opened the folder. "There are some changes I would like you to make." Leonor listened quietly. "I think it would be better if you delayed your next regional visit. We should focus on strengthening other priorities first." Leonor nodded respectfully. Then she asked a simple question. "Would delaying the visit help Spain, or only make things easier for us?" The king hesitated. "It would reduce pressure." She understood immediately. Not pressure on the country. Pressure on the palace. That difference changed everything. King Felipe continued. "The public doesn't need every appearance right now. Sometimes waiting is wiser." Leonor lowered her eyes. She respected her father deeply. He had guided her since childhood. He had taught her dignity, patience, service, sacrifice. Yet something inside her had changed during recent months. Military training, conversations with ordinary citizens, visits across Spain. Those experiences had transformed the young princess. She no longer saw royal duty as carefully planned ceremonies. She saw it as showing up when people needed reassurance. Remaining visible, remaining present, even when it was difficult. She looked back at her father. "I believe the visit should continue." The room became silent. King Felipe wasn't angry, only surprised. Leonor had rarely disagreed with him so directly. He leaned back. "May I ask why?" She answered honestly. "Because duty belongs to the institution, not to our comfort." Those words stayed in the air. The king studied his daughter. For a brief moment, he wasn't looking at the little girl he once held in his arms. He was looking at the future Queen of Spain. Days later, palace advisors gathered. Opinions were divided. Some believed Leonor should follow the king's preference without question. Others quietly admired her commitment. One advisor spoke carefully. "If the princess believes the people come first, perhaps that is exactly what we have been preparing her for." No one answered. Meanwhile, media speculation outside the palace intensified. Rumors spread about disagreements. Commentators invented dramatic explanations. Some claimed a crisis. Others predicted conflict. Inside the palace, however, the reality was far quieter. This wasn't a family feud. It was a conversation between two people who both loved Spain. They simply saw the moment differently. That evening, Leonor visited her mother. Queen Letizia noticed immediately that something was on her daughter's mind. "You spoke with your father." Leonor smiled. "Yes. And we disagreed." Letizia wasn't shocked. Instead, she asked, "Were you respectful?" "Always." "Were you honest?" "Yes." The queen nodded. "Then you've done what every future monarch must eventually learn." Leonor looked confused. "What is that?" "Respect doesn't always mean agreement." Those words stayed with her. Over the next week, preparations continued. The regional visit remained on the calendar. King Felipe never publicly challenged the decision. Instead, he watched carefully. When the day arrived, thousands gathered. Families lined the streets. Children waved small Spanish flags. Older citizens smiled warmly. Leonor greeted everyone with genuine warmth. She listened more than she spoke. She thanked volunteers. She visited veterans. She spent extra time speaking with young students about service and responsibility. One elderly woman reached for her hand. "We're grateful you came." Leonor smiled. "So am I." Television cameras captured the moment. Across Spain, many viewers noticed something unusual. There was no grand speech. No dramatic announcement. Just sincere human connection. Back inside the palace, King Felipe watched the broadcast. One advisor stood nearby. The king remained silent until the coverage ended. Finally he spoke. "She made the right decision." The advisor looked surprised. "You disagreed." "I did. But today wasn't about proving who was right. It was about serving Spain." He smiled quietly. "And today, she served well." Later that evening, Leonor returned. She wasn't expecting anything unusual. As she entered the palace library, she found her father waiting. No officials, no advisors, just father and daughter. King Felipe approached her. I watched today. She remained quiet. I was proud. Those words meant everything. Leonor smiled gently. I never wanted to oppose you. I know. I only believed it was the right thing. He nodded. So did I. She looked puzzled. You did. I simply feared the risks. Leonor understood. He hadn't been protecting the institution. He'd been protecting his daughter. Every parent understands that feeling. Every child eventually recognizes it. King Felipe walked toward the window. When you were younger, I believed my responsibility was making every difficult decision for you. He paused. Now I realize my responsibility is preparing you to make them yourself. Leonor felt emotional. Neither of them spoke for several moments. Sometimes silence says everything. Weeks passed. Life inside the palace returned to normal. Official engagements continued. Military responsibilities continued. Public appearances continued. Yet something had quietly changed. The relationship between father and daughter had entered a new chapter. King Felipe no longer saw Leonor only as someone learning to lead. He saw someone ready to lead. That realization brought both pride and sadness. Because every parent eventually reaches the moment when guidance becomes trust. Months later, during another official event, journalists noticed something interesting. Whenever Leonor greeted citizens, King Felipe stood slightly behind her. Not because protocol demanded it. Because he wanted Spain to see its future. Observers praised the gesture. Few understood its deeper meaning. It wasn't about stepping aside. It was about confidence. Confidence that the next generation was ready. One evening, Leonor reflected on everything that had happened. She remembered her father's request. Her difficult answer. The uncertainty. The visit. Their conversation afterward. She realized something important. Duty had never been about choosing between family and responsibility. True duty meant honoring both whenever possible. Sometimes that required difficult conversations. Sometimes respectful disagreement. Sometimes courage. King Felipe reached the same conclusion. He wrote a brief note and left it on Leonor's desk. It simply read, "A leader is not measured by how often they agree. A leader is measured by the reasons behind every decision. Continue choosing wisely. I'm proud of you, Dad." Leonor folded the note. Carefully, she placed it inside one of her personal journals. Not because it came from a king, but because it came from her father. Years later, palace staff would remember that season differently from the headlines. Newspapers remembered rumors. Commentators remembered speculation. But those who witnessed it firsthand remembered something much simpler. A father learning to trust. A daughter learning to lead. And a family discovering that love becomes stronger when built on mutual respect instead of unquestioned agreement. Sometimes the greatest act of loyalty is not saying yes. Sometimes it is having the courage to respectfully say no when duty calls. Because history often remembers the leaders who made difficult choices. But families remember the conversations that made those choices possible. And perhaps, in the quiet halls of the palace, that was the moment Princess Leonor truly began her journey toward becoming the queen she hoped one day to be. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this fictional royal story inspired by public figures, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Let us know in the comments. If you were in Princess Leonor's position, would you have chosen your father's wishes, or your duty? Until next time, thank you.